So now when we look at the aspect, the interest of these merchants of war, the signal points to the West. So have you been able to raise this with them in terms of curbing the aspect of the manufacturing, which you said was a critical aspect that was discussed at the UN Disarmament Office?
Absolutely. They are the major manufacturers. They are also the major traders. However, it does not mean that they cannot be brought under control. What the UN is stressing is to regulate their activities. That is, activities of those who are manufacturing and activities of those who are trading and selling these weapons.
When we look at the source of financing terrorism now and proliferation of small arms, one would want to imagine someone who has got access to government funds. And this also points to politicians. That's talking about our local big timers. So who are those involved from our local points? Because we want to imagine that money is being changed, money is changing hands in this business now. And so tell us, who are those involved in this trade in Nigeria? Have you been able to track them down?
Well, obviously we are still investigating. But when you talk about trade in weapons, there could be legitimate trade and there could be illicit trade. I think those who are involved in legitimate trade in this regard are just businessmen. Businessmen who perhaps have borrowed money from the banks or other financial institutions and are using it to do business in a normal way. And if they decide to venture into the business of buying and selling weapons, as long as there are no laws and regulations forbidding them to engage in such business, it is legitimate on their part.
For someone like you, permit me to rub it in as considering your profile as the Director General, the former Director General of the Nigeria National Intelligence Agency, permit me. Could you tell us, could you give us some of this classified information in the campaign against small arms and light weapons?
Any investigator coming from, say, Nigerian Police Force or security services or intelligence services will never rule out anything. Will never rule out anything. Whatever you say and whatever you believe must be on the basis of your findings.
Could you tell us, when do you think the proliferation of small arms in Nigeria is likely to be wiped away, or at least to be a thing of the past or greatly reduced?
Okay, I'll tell you this. You know, the fight against proliferation of small arms and light weapons, as I mentioned earlier, is being undertaken at a global setting. However, whatever instruments or legislations derived from the international community must also be domesticated to ensure that locally that many people in the country come on board such legislations. I mentioned at the very beginning, the very outset of this interview, that our committee has been set up to assist government to implement the ECOWAS Convention on Small Arms and Light Weapons.
You talked about the peculiar factors that are at play in Nigeria, and at this point, let's do some comparative analysis to what obtains in the Western world. US, for instance, had a debate on gun control, and that's a society that, to an extent, they have a provision of using small arms, at least for self-protection. But in Nigeria, we don't have that situation to contend with. So it's still amazing to find why Nigeria is a major destination, not just a transit point now, of small weapons. Could you explain this to us?
I ascribe the situation to geography. Now, as for gun control in the United States of America, the U.S. is a major manufacturer of weapons because very big money is involved. Fortunately for us in Nigeria, we do not have that freedom to possess arms except certain categories of gaming weapons, hunting weapons, which can be procured by members of the citizen if they have a license. And there is a process, there are procedures for a citizen who wishes to apply for such weapons to have. But for anyone to aspire to have military-style assault weapons, that's completely out of the question.
Permit me to rub this in that you are the former Director General of National Intelligence Agency, and many Nigerians watching you would want to assume, just like me, I'm not an exception, that you are likely to have some classified facts about insecurity in Nigeria. Could you tell us or give us a hint about insecurity in Nigeria and what Nigerians need to know about insecurity in Nigeria?
Well, I would say that insecurity is a reality. Insecurity is indeed a reality, and we cannot wish it away simply sitting down and praying to God and hoping that it will just disappear overnight. That's what I would say. I think also that, you know, you mentioned my having been at the National Intelligence Agency. It is true, I was at the National Intelligence Agency. But you also know that there's a peculiar reticence that you associate with people who have occupied that office.
Ambassador Emmanuel Imohe, it's been a wonderful moment having you bringing accounts of stewardship, piloting the affairs of the committee, the Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons in Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed. And that's as much as we can take on this episode of Question Time. You may also send us a comment on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Join us next week on another exciting episode of the show on Channels Television. Many thanks for watching. I'm Benga Ashiru saying goodbye.